Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for the Precious Metals and Critical Minerals Conference. Our next presentation is from Elevate Uranium. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter, and you can view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Murray Hill. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Elevate Uranium, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol ELVUF and on the ASX under the symbol EL8. Welcome back, Murray.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here. And as you say, as our name suggests, Elevate Uranium. We're a uranium-focused exploration company and development company operating in two jurisdictions of Namibia and Australia. So Namibia, we've got 161 million pound globally. Namibia holds 2/3 of those. It's a jurisdiction we have discovered 4 deposits over the last, from 2019 through a 4-year period. So we've been very successful in that jurisdiction. It's a tier 1 uranium mining jurisdiction with a long history of uranium processing in Namibia. And then a third of our assets are in the tier 1 mining jurisdiction of Australia. We picked these assets up in late 2019. We were unable to do work on them for 3 or 4 years due to the limitations placed on travel for a while. But now we're starting to get back into doing some work on these. So 2 good jurisdictions for mining, and been very successful in exploration campaigns, particularly in Namibia. So when you look at our corporate overview, we've got 40 million cash in the bank. That's a fantastic position to be in. We've had a greater access to capital. We just raised a month ago, or a bit over a month ago, 25 million Australian dollars. And all dollars I refer to in this presentation are Australian dollars, so apologies to North American people. And then when you look at our shareholders, the board have got skin in the game. We've introduced some institutions on our register over the last 13, 14 months. And Paradise were one of those, come in 13 months ago at 9.9% of the company, maintained that in the last cap raising. And we've got another 28% of institutions. So we're sort of changing our register as we become more prominent in the industry, as we grow in terms of our resource base and our asset base. So when you look at our board management, we've got 3 directors. That's the minimum you need in Australia. So I'm one of those. So we're not excess there, and we've got 2 executives on one of them. So we're not top heavy. All the money we get, we put into the ground, and we don't pay our executives overly. So that's important for investors to know, that we're really focused on adding value by spending their money on exploration and then subsequently development. So the 4 key sort of pillars we've got is the upgrade process, which we developed in-house, which I'll tell to quite a bit shortly. And that is being proven now, or de-risked in a demonstration/pilot plant, which is being commissioned in Namibia as we speak. And then the outcomes of that obviously is going to be, we're going to have the pilot plant outcomes in terms of results, and then we'll move into a scoping study as we try to understand the valuation. We've always been talking about a reduction in capital and operating costs with upgrade process, and that's what the scoping study is going to do. It's going to identify what that cost reduction is. Our second pillar being our Namibian resource base. As I said, we've had 4 discoveries in a period of 4 years from 2019. 2 of those, the Copies and the Hirabeb resources, Hirabeb and Copies are both the resources. Now moving forward, we've got a large area that we're drilling out to get our maiden resource on early next year. And we'll be drilling Capri next year to be the 4th discovery going into resource. That's a pretty good track record of 100% conversion from discoveries to resources. So what you're going to see out of that is we're going to see the maiden resource coming out of Namu 4. We're going to see a resource coming out of maiden resource coming out of Capri as 2 of the minimum things we're going to be doing next year. And then, of course, we're moving across to Australia as our 3rd pillar. We've got high-grade projects in Australia. As I said before, we didn't do a lot of work on them for a period of time because of restrictions in travel. We're just drilling at Angela as we speak. So we're expecting results probably by the time they get the downhole probing done, given the Christmas period. We're going to be probably seeing results coming through mid-January next year is where we get it. And then the 4th one is strategic growth. We're seeing a lot of targets for us from a not quite an M&A perspective, but an asset acquisition perspective. So we're trying to consolidate different areas of Australia and Namibia, and we're seeing some projects that we like and are moving down that path to sort of see if we can acquire those to build up our asset base. So that also forms quite an important pillar for us in our growth story. Now, the best part of the company is the upgrade process. It's a process we developed in-house back in 2013. It was developed on Marinika samples, and what it did was, I mean, the Marinika project back then was, it's a low-grade project. It's the only asset in the company. What do you do with it? Do you walk away because it needed a very high uranium price, or do you be innovative? And that's what we elected to do, was just to be innovative. So we looked at the minerals present, their associations, and we tried hard to concentrate uranium. We had some success, but then we realized the best thing we could do was to focus on concentrating the gangue minerals, the minerals that don't bear uranium. So concentrate on those and produce a concentrate, then you can throw away. So that's counterintuitive, innovative, and hence patentable. So we have 3 patents around the world, all approved and granted, and it uses commonly used unit operations that you'd find in a gold or base metal mineral sands plant. So this is not a technology; it's a process. We just figured these units unconventionally, and also the fact that we're trying to concentrate non-bearing uranium minerals is as I say, counterintuitive. So that's the key to unlocking the upgrade process. It concentrates uranium at the Marinika resource by 50 times in the bench scale, and it reduces the mass to be leached to less than 5%. So you can imagine that if you're now got a leach circuit, instead of for a calcrete hosted ore, the only plant operating in the world is Langer Heinrich on this style of ore. They have to leach for a nominal 24, 36 hours at 92 degrees Celsius. Again, throw it into Celsius instead of Fahrenheit, but 92 degrees Celsius, so very, very hot. So a lot of costs go into that. If you could take the calcite out, as we are doing, and then go to an acid leach, you're running for 4 to 6 hours, it leaches, and it's at ambient temperature. So the cost is significantly less because the temperature reduction, the size of the process, the leach circuit is significantly less. So really, we think that we're going to get a capital reduction of 50%, an operating reduction of 50% using this upgrade process compared to conventional. So you can imagine also you're producing a high-grade concentrate in a really low mass. So that gives you optionality as to what you do with the concentrate. You can take it to a third party for leaching and refining to produce yellow cake. Now, that third party could be one of the operations in Namibia, or it could be one of our other sites. So we've got multiple sites in Namibia. We could be taking concentrate from one to the other. So the center of gravity might, for instance, be the Copies project, where we take Marinika concentrate down to there. So it brings our projects closer together. It means we can develop smaller projects than our peers, and really opens up exploration potential for us, because we know that we can lower the cost base. We know we don't need a 50, 100 million pound resource. We can get away with smaller resources, but more of them. So it really changes our look on how we explore, which has become important for developing the company. So the pilot plant, as I call it, some people call it a demonstration plant because it's demonstrating the process, it has been designed, constructed in Perth. We then transported across to Namibia. Unfortunately, the shipping lines aren't that efficient nowadays. They're overly busy, and it took a bit longer to get there. But it's now sitting in Namibia. It's been assembled and is going through the commissioning stage. So it's a commissioning stage that we're probably going to take most of this year, and then next year we'll be really getting into operating it properly. The operators will be trained. I mean, we've employed 40 local Namibians to operate this plant on a 24/7, well, not 24/7, 24/5 basis. We're operating 24 hours a day just during the week, and analysing data on the weekends. So it really gives us a lot of training to do now, understand the circuit. So we're going into next year, we can really hit the pilot plant hard and really produce the results we expect to produce. So it's been successful for us now in terms of the upgrade process and what it's done for the company. And now, as I say, this is the time to de-risk it and prove to investors that we can add significant value. So when you look at the Copies resource has 50% of the ore within 7 meters of surface. So what's that, 21 feet or something? So really, really shallow ore. We then anticipate a very, very low strip ratio and hence a very low cost to mine because we're not mining very deep. So when you consider that, it's such a shallow deposit with low mining costs, you couple that with upgrade process whereby you're reducing the operating cost for processing, we expect this to be a relatively low cost operation. And that's, as I say, that's what the study's going to do. It's confirm what sort of operation we've got, what sort of cost structure we've got with our upgrade process operating on it. Now, the Copies Uranium project, I was talked about how shallow the resource is. The project has two resources in it. The Copies resource is 56 million pound, and that extends over a 20-kilometre length. And we've got sort of 20 kilometres away is the Uranium deposit with 10 million pound. So in this area, we've got the Langer Heinrich project, we've got with Paladin, we've got Tumas Deep Yellow project. So there's about 360 million pound within about sort of 50-kilometre radius of the Copies project. So this is quite a rich province. We also are exploring down at Namu 4 on the sort of the bottom left of the map. We've got about 11 kilometre by 7.5 kilometre mineralised envelope that we're currently drilling out with infill drilling. And we expect to announce our main resource early next year. But with such a large area, it's quite a lot of drilling to get to a resource. So we're not going to have all of that resource drilled out by early next year. It's just going to be a smaller component of it. So the main resource will be relatively small compared to the total expected resource. But we'll continue drilling that next year to see what sort of resource we can get. Now, if that's 25, 30 million pound, whatever the number might be, it's going to add to the Copies project. So it's going to either increase the annualised production rate of the Copies project, or it's going to add life of mine to it. So it's an important part of Copies. The bottom of the Copies resource, the southern end, is only 10 kilometres from the northern end of the Namu 4 resource. So it's quite close to each other, and we think it's all going to be the one project. So it's quite exciting what we're finding, and also the exploration program we've done. The geologists we've got have identified not just the mineralisation within paleochannel like Langer Heinrich and Tumas have got, but we've got 2/3 of our resource at Copies outside of the paleochannel. Now, paleochannels you can find with airborne or ground-based electromagnetics, but the mineralisation outside the paleochannel is a lot more difficult to find. Our geos have been working hard on this, and we think we've got a pretty good model now that we're going to apply to our other tenements, and hence we think we can find more uranium and also add to our pound space. So that's a big learning curve we've had with the Copies project and the mineralisation outside of paleochannels. But again, the mineralisation outside of paleochannels is shallow. We're still talking 50% within 7 metres of surface. So it's not as though it's a deeper mineralisation. It's all very shallow and relatively easy to mine. So the Marineka project is the next sort of big project we've got in Namibia. It's what we developed Upgrade on. It's a 61 million pound resource. It's low grade. What we're currently doing is we're doing a full review. It's a JORC 2004 resource. We want to bring it up to JORC 2012. So we've done validation of somewhere in the order of 5,000 holes. That's taken a bit longer than I would have liked. And because managing directors, CEOs have a higher expectations of what actually is happening in terms of how quickly we want things done. But we've now getting to the point where we're fairly confident with the data. We've now engaged a resource geologist to start looking at it. So probably early next year, we expect we're going to have a revised resource at Marineka. Now, it used to have a cut-off grade, or has had a cut-off grade of 50 ppm. We're going to bring that up to 100 to align with other projects in Namibia. So hence, we expect the resource to go up. We don't know what pounds might be reduced, but certainly going to be a more positive resource grade. And we'll more than likely run the Marineka ore through the pilot plant early next year and see what results we get out of that. So this will be a very important step for the Marineka project for the current resource area, but also we've identified new style of mineralisation in the north of the Marineka resource. In fact, the tenement to the north of this is one we're just waiting for environmental clearance before we get granted, and that has some fairly exciting mineralisation drilled previously on it that we want to follow up. So we think there's a whole new target area in the north of this tenement moving into the next tenement. So that'll add pounds to the Marineka resource. So a lot of good stuff coming out from that Marineka project over the next 6 to 12 months. So Namibia itself, I mean, why are we in Namibia? We're in Namibia because it's a fantastic uranium jurisdiction. It's the only country in the world with a dedicated uranium association. They do a fantastic job of promoting the industry, the conduit between the explorers and developers and producers and government stakeholders, general public. They do a lot of work for us. We have the largest land position of nuclear fuels in Namibia, and we can service that large land package simply because one hole for us cost $1,000. Now, not many times can someone talk to you about such a low drilling cost. Certainly, our peers in the Athabasca Basin, $500,000 a hole, not $1,000 a hole. So we're only drilling 28 meters deep. It's inexpensive exploration, and one rig's doing about 25 holes a week. So we can get over a lot of ground. We can drill a lot of holes in a short period of time for a relatively inexpensive exploration program. But Namibia itself, with Rossing been operating since 1976, so we're now in 49 years. I think next year is their 50th anniversary of operating on a continuous basis. That's the longest running open pit uranium mine in the world. So there's two generations of Namibians that understand uranium. They're not afraid of uranium. They're not woke like some of the Western world. They understand that it's not as scary as some people make it out to be, and it provides a good economic outcome for the country. There's also, so that's been operating for 49 years. They've also had Langer Heinrich developed in 2008, I think it was, Husab about 2014 or so, and Trikopi Orano's project was also developed. So there's three projects that have been developed in the last sort of 17, 18 years. And then when you look, there's the Tumas project and the Tango project have both received licenses in the last 2 years. So there's a history of producing, history of development of projects, and a history of licensing. So it's a good jurisdiction to be in that respect. We're looking for paleochannels, as I said before, but also some mineralisation just outside of paleochannels. The areas we've focused on are down in the Copies project and up in the central Orongo area, and we're getting good results in both of those. So it's an exciting jurisdiction to be in. We're happy to be there. We are inside National Park, predominantly in the Copies project area, but 75% of Namibia's mining revenue comes from inside National Park. So the government is sort of saying, okay, we'll give you a permit to explore in the National Park. If you find anything, we'll work out what we're going to do about it. So we're in the middle of the desert, the Namib Northcliffe Desert. We see 10 millimeters of rainfall a year. We understand the desert keeps its history, so we're very much focused on making sure that we don't leave too big a footprint in that Namib Northcliffe Park in the desert. So our general manager in Namibia is an environmentalist. We're very much focused on what's important to us. So a great jurisdiction to be in. Moving across to Australia, we're at the Angela project, just 25 kilometres south of Alice Springs in the Northern Territory, so central Australia. It's a 31 million pound resource at 1300 ppm. We've done some 2D seismic work not so long ago. It identified a lens that is the mineralised lens, and it also identified some conductors or lenses beneath that had never been drilled. So we just received a grant from the NT government. We're drilling it right now. As I say, we expect to finish the drilling program this year with the results coming out early next year. And that really is focused on seeing what we can get, see if we can hit the target reflectors and what might be in them, whether they're mineralised or not. There's only one way to find out, and that's going to drill it. So the fact that we got a $112,000 grant from the NT government, which represents just over a quarter of our costs, that sort of gives us the confidence that the NT government is very supportive of uranium exploration in the territory. Which is fantastic for us and encouraging us to do more with the projects. And the upgrade process itself on Angela's got a lot of acid consumption in it due to calcite. We did a small number of bench scale test work, like 4 of them, and we reduced the acid consumption by 80%. So we know that nobody can pin an outcome within 4 tests in the bench scale. So we're very confident we can improve that 80% reduction and significantly lower the cost to process the ore at Angela. So that's exciting for us, and the outcome of the drilling I'm looking forward to seeing early next year. Now, the Minerva prospect is north of Alice Springs. It was discovered in 1978, hasn't been drilled since. It's got 10 holes that have plus 10,000 ppm uranium, so extremely high grade for Australia, 1% uranium. It's got a strike length of 2,400 metres. We want to go and drill that. it's only ever been drilled with air core, so it doesn't give you any structural information. So we're going to drill it with diamond core just to understand the structure. So we're going through the process of the approval process to make sure we can access the ground and drill that. So that's something we can look forward to next year as well. So from a news flow point of view, coming over the next sort of 5 quarters, a year and a bit, is the demonstration/pilot plant operation in Namibia. It's being commissioned now and operating properly next year. That then will feed into the Copies project study, which will then also, the pilot plant will also feed into the Marinika project study. So we'll have those running not quite in parallel, one just a bit behind the other, because we're still sort of going through that resource review process at Marinika and the data validation. So a couple of studies coming out next year. And then the other green line you can see at the top there is after up the demonstration plant. Part of the demonstration plant, we've built an assay lab in Namibia. So what we want to do is we want to do a geomet program. So we want to go and assay every mineralized interval and either side of the mineralized intervals to make sure we understand the calcite distribution, the clay distribution, sulfate distribution, as well as uranium distribution, so that when we move into development, we will be the most prepared uranium company in history, because we'll understand our resource more than anybody else has ever understood their resources. And the reason why we're doing that is a beneficiation circuit rejects mass based on the mineral compositions. So if you've got a calcite concentration of 2% in part of the ore and 25% in the other part of the ore, if you haven't designed your plant to accept that range, you're going to have operating problems. So we want to know the range. We want to know how we can and sort of minimize the range or narrow the range to make it a smoother operation. So we're going to do a lot of work on geomet on these deposits in Namibia. As I say, the most prepared company in history for beneficiation of uranium. And then moving down to Namibia, the Nami 4 maiden resource I talked about. There'll be the Capri maiden resource coming up. And we've also got the team working on exploration programs. So they're preparing some exploration programs now so that we hit the ground running next year on different parts of Namibia. And then, of course, Australia, we've talked about Angela drilling. The outcomes of that, I need to move that arrow. That's the drilling. The analysis is moving into Q1. So I need to move that arrow into Q1 for data analysis and to see what results we've got. And then, what do we get out of that? If that's very encouraging, well, obviously we want to drill more. So we're also started that process already to make sure that we can drill if we need to. And then Minerva drilling, as I say, we're going through the approvals process now. So quite exciting news coming up for us. And I'm really looking forward to updating the market as we get results. So when you look at in summary, we got 161 million pound globally. That's in 2 tier 1 jurisdictions, Namibia and Australia. And we talked about how good Namibia is. We're taking some investors there in February next year to show them the country and our assets and the pilot plant, which will be exciting for us. So a large number of pounds, but that's still growing. We've got this industry-leading upgrade process, which we developed in-house and 100% owned by us, which is really transforming the valuation of our assets. It's a catalyst for us to explore. It's a catalyst to acquire projects that upgrade can add value to. And then we've got 40 million cash in the bank. When I started 13 years ago and during COVID times, I think we got down to 300,000 as a capital raising. So it's fantastic to be in a situation that we can now attract investors because of all the hard work we've done during those years and upgrade itself, the pilot plant, and then moving into the resources we've got. So that's exciting. And then, as you can see, and you hear me talking about, the portfolio growth is going to be there. We've got a pipeline of assets that, we're talking now about Copies study, a Marinika study, drilling in Australia, also our drilling air projects in Namibia. We can see a pipeline of assets coming through. And then what better time to be in the uranium industry? I mean, every time I wake up here in Western Australia and I hear the news coming overnight from the US or other parts of the world, I mean, people governments turning around their nuclear policies and, anti now pro. The US, talking about quadrupling nuclear. And you're hearing Amazon, Meta, Google, all those big companies that are AI data centers committing to nuclear power off grid. So off grid being you can't use it for mums and dads. It's all for use for these data centers, and the importance of data centers, the importance of winning the AI race for the West is really being understood in the US and different parts of Europe. And that's leading to increased uranium demand because of increased nuclear demand, which is becoming because of the demand for energy. But even at the moment, the supply demand gap in uranium is such that it's quite high because there's not enough uranium being produced for the current nuclear fleet. And then when you look at the nuclear fleet being planned, it's clearly obvious to us that the only way to incentivize new uranium production is for the uranium price to go up. And our peers in Namibia, two of them are sitting waiting for the uranium price to go up before they go too far on their development plans. So we can see the uranium price going up significantly. Obviously, we're leveraged to the uranium price, but we're also leveraged to what we do as a company. And we're very active in Namibia and Australia, and we think we're adding significant value with our upgrade process. So, we've got a two-pronged sort of leap, I suppose, in our valuation. That is the uranium price, but also what we do and what we can control as a company. We can't control the uranium price, but we can control everything else we're doing. So that's me. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope you got something out of it. If you've ever got any questions for me, my contact details are here. They're on the presentation. I answer every email, whether they be silly questions or good questions. I think it's respectful to answer an investor's question or a shareholder's question. So appreciate the time. Thank you. I see there's questions come through. I can't read all of them. There's a few on the screen, but one of them sort of stands out. I know you've talked about what news flow is coming in the next 6 months, but just remind me again, what are the key things? And okay, so the key things are the pilot plant for upgrade. We want that. We expect results coming out early next year on that. The commissioning phase is happening now. So that will re-rate us. If we prove upgrade of the pilot plant, then investors are going to go, hang on, they are real. They're talking about what they've been talking about for many years is real. That's fantastic. And then, of course, that leads into studies. So the study outcomes from Copies and Marinika will be very influential in terms of the cost base and demonstrating that our costs are significantly less than our peers. So they're two real key things that were happening. But at the same time, yes, we've focused on those, but we are also doing work on increasing our resource base, because the valuation of exploration companies is pounds in the ground and quality pounds in the ground. Now, if we're proving that the upgrade works, the cost base is there, then we've got more pounds. They're going to be quality pounds because we know we can upgrade them, or we can increase the value of them through upgrades, the double use of upgrade. So that's exciting for us. And then also, moving across to Australia, we know that we can add value to Angela with upgrade, but let's try and add value to Angela by exploring. And also some M&A activity. So we're quite encouraged as to where we're going with it. And I look forward to updating the market as we go forward. So I'm sorry, I'm probably spoke too long on my presentation. So I've run out of time for questions. But as I say, if you've got questions that are unanswered, send them through and I will answer them. So thanks very much for your time. Enjoy your day.